Hi, hello. My name is Alexa Mallqui. I'm Peruvian, and thank you so much again for the invitation.
If you were given an option to choose between ceviche and Milanese risotto, what would you choose?
Ceviche, 100. Okay, I've been working and I studied in Peru during my whole career. In order to review what was the best university for me, I went directly to the Financial Times ranking of MBA. And actually, I saw that SDA Bocconi was in a really good position. In that moment, it was the sixth of the list. And I really wanted to do a program that lasts just 1 year.
Hi, Alexa. Welcome to Croissant Corner, powered by Masters Admit. Thank you so much for agreeing to taking some time out and sharing your MBA experience at SDA Bocconi.
Hi, hello. My name is Alexa Mallqui. I'm Peruvian, and thank you so much again for the invitation.
Great. Before we jump into questions, and I understand you've spent quite some time in Italy now, I have a little difficult question for you to answer. While I'm pretty sure I know the answer, if you were given an option to choose between ceviche and Milanese risotto, what would you choose?
Ceviche, 100 for sure. There's
Ah,
no doubt about it.
seems like Italians are not treating you that well, huh? I mean, they've not been able to replace ceviche yet.
No, Italian food is amazing, but no, we cannot talk about food with Peruvians because we are always like defending our Peruvian cuisine.
Great to hear that. Great. On that note, if you can just give us a brief introduction about yourself, what were you doing in the past? And also, if you can just help us understand what sort of triggered you to decide and say, I really want to go for an MBA.
Yeah, so okay, I've been working and I studied in Peru during my whole career. I studied industrial engineering until 2018, and then I've been working for 5 years, especially in demand and inventory planning.
Mhm.
That was all my career, all the planning of the company and also the commercial part. But at some point, after 5 years, I realized that I needed to know more about the company, more about the areas and how is the impact of my job in the financial terms of the company. So
Sure.
in that moment, I decided to join an MBA because joining an MBA, you can visualize and you can realize how all the areas like make the same job, the same description jobs in order to achieving a goal for the company.
True, true, true. Yeah, I think a lot of us go through that journey because before MBA, I think most of us are sort of one function expert, but MBA sort of empowers you to gain understanding of not just, let's say, that specific function, but in general as such. But how did you land up at SDA Bocconi? I mean, what triggered you to join SDA Bocconi? How did you go through that process? How did you shortlist school? If you can just give our viewers and our listeners a little bit perspective on that.
Yeah, first of all, when I was thinking about doing an MBA, my first variable was if I would choose an university between US and Europe. And for me, I always wanted to live in Europe, so Europe was my first like filter. And then in order to review what was the best university for me, I went directly to the Financial Times ranking of MBA. In that moment, it was from 2022, 2023. And actually, I saw that SDA Bocconi was in a really good position. In that moment, it was the sixth of the list.
Sure.
And I really wanted to do a program that lasts just 1 year because in my personal case, I really I really love to be a busy person. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time just studying. I really love to work. So
Sure.
for me, 2 years was a lot of time
Yeah.
just studying. So that was my second filter.
Mhm.
And of course, the universities that I saw that were first on the list were universities for 2 years program. So then it was Bocconi, and for me it was an instant match because I always wanted to live in Italy. So of course I saw Bocconi, good position, 1 year Italy, and that was my university. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Yeah, makes sense. I think a lot of people, and even during some of our previous episodes, it's been pretty much the similar story. People generally who have, let's say, more than 6 or 7 years of experience would prefer to go for 1 year MBA. I mean, in terms of ROI, in terms of the amount of time you spend in education
Yes.
versus, let's say, work, I think it completely makes sense. Uh, but so while I do understand Financial Time rankings were, let's say, one parameter for you, but how did it pan out after that? How was your application process? How did you go
Yeah.
about your essays, or let's say your GMAT score and all of that? If you can just give a a little bit perspective on that.
Yes. In my personal case was a different case before I decided to do an MBA. By the end of 2022, my first plan was to do a master.
Okay.
So I was checking of universities that teach master in management. So a lot of universities request the GMAT, so I started to study for the GMAT. For
Sure.
me, I started for about 4 months and a half.
Okay.
I made the test. I got a good score, so it was like a relief for me because everyone knows that the GMAT is a really hard test and it's really stressful. So to have the good score in the first application of the test, it was a really relief for me.
Sure.
Then I was like preparing all the documents, let's say, to apply for this master in management, but in the same moment I realized that having 27 years old and to start a master, it was not a good idea for me because actually I was more close to the average age of an MBA that is in Bocconi, at least is 29. I think in the majority of universities of MBA is 29, 30.
Yeah.
So I thought that in that moment that 27-year-old will be an advantage for me because I will be like one of the youngest of the class. And I can confirm that by now that I took that right decision in that moment. So by February of, just to put timelines, by February of 2023, I decided to apply to Bocconi.
Sure.
Actually, in Bocconi, the application process lasts from October to a defined year to April of the next year. So I applied kind of in the middle of the timeline.
Yeah.
It took like 3 weeks for the university to answer to me with an email. Of course, they review all your documents, and if you are okay for the position, they ask you to have an interview.
Okay.
So then the second step is to have an interview, most of all to see the fitting with the values of the university. It's not too technical. There are questions that they are asking you: why an MBA, why Bocconi, why Milan? Walk me through your resume is a typical question.
Yeah.
But they want to see how you answer and how does you engage like with a similar person that is asking you a really specific questions and is challenge you.
Sure.
So they're mostly in that second interview, they're mostly checking your values and the feeling that you can have with the university. So then after the second interview, it was like actually like a month for them to answer. And then they answer right away if you have been accepted or rejected. So in that moment, I have the acceptance it was by the end of March, almost the beginning of April.
Okay.
So yeah, so then they request to you like more documents, of course, all the administration process.
Sure.
And then the university, like just to talk about the process, the university offers you, like for example, benefits of a person that can help you with a housing, for example, for immigrants.
Okay.
That it was the case. And then the university also, maybe we are going to talk about later about that, but the university also has a partnership with a platform that offers the student loans, like with a really good percentage. So that's part of the process, and then you decide how much time you are gonna come to Milan before the program. For me, they recommended to me 2 weeks before. So I arrived here by the end of August, and we started the program by September 11th of last year.
Wow, that's interesting. And I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that entire journey of applying till getting selected is always very stressful because that period of waiting. And once you receive the result, I think life becomes even more stressful. From the outside doesn't look like, but the ones who are going through that, finding an accommodation, going through the visa process, all of that, it's not easy. I understand that process. Yeah. But
Yeah. Mhm.
but just to understand in terms of your application, is there anything specific you feel probably sort of stood out, which sort of differentiated you from, let's say, rest of the cohort members or probably the other applicants?
I think in my main case was that I could empathize and I could engage really quickly in my interview.
Sure.
I don't know. During the first minute, of course, you feel really nervous.
Yeah.
But actually, my interviewer, she was really kind with me, and I heard that with other applicants, also they have like kind of the same experience.
Right.
But in my personal experience, I think helped me a lot that I could really engage and empathize and have a really friendly conversation with her.
Sure.
We laughed in during the interview, and I think that when you can have like a closely and a really friendly conversation, that may help.
Yeah.
You also have to show kindness and respect and that you are a humble person, because
True.
of course in the same time you need to show off a little bit, because you need to show all your skills and how the university may be happy with you in the program, but
Yeah.
in the same time you should be humble about that. So I think I could manage that really well in that moment because I
Sure.
practice a lot. The practicing process is really hard because it's a really important interview.
Yeah.
um so I think that worked for me really good.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think you're spot on when you say that, because uh, a lot of times what happens is usually MBA applicants, they tend to, I mean, so what they tend to do is not put the real self out in front. And that's
Mhm.
something which all MBA admission officers are actually looking at. Even
Yeah.
so, what we usually recommend to people who contact us is usually try and bring your true story, right? Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
not everyone knows how to put their story forward, and is where I think a lot of effort is required.
Mhm.
But the school usually focuses on seeing the true you and
Yes,
not the made up you, right? And is where I think
exactly.
it's very easy for admission officers to figure that out. I mean, they've been interviewing so many students over the past
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, they're
Right.
very professional about it. I think a good tip may be that when they ask you about your weaknesses, or when they ask you about any fail in your career, being honest is the best option. It's like I was like I was wrong about this, or I made this big mistake once, but I could manage it in this way, and then I improved. So
Yeah.
you can have like an action plan during the whole fail story. So I think that's a good tip.
Sure, sure. And I think it's a very important question even during your job interviews. I think that's
Yes,
something which even recruiters are looking for. And let's say, just a tip for our listeners, even let's say once you get admitted and you go for job interviews, this is one question which is often asked. And even the job interviewers want to hear your true story. But
yeah.
another key aspect to it is, how did you fix that? Or let's say, what was the lesson learned? But let's deep dive a little bit on the curriculum as such, right? So is there anything in that entire, so I understand it's a 1 year process, 1 year program, right? So
Yes.
in this 1 year program, is till now, has there anything which probably stood out for you, any particular course, any particular subject or module as such, which sort of just stood out for you till now?
You mean that was difficult for me?
I would say something which you were like, wow, this was really interesting, I would want to learn about it more.
Ah, okay. I
I mean, if
think
you
that
would say difficult, I would say difficult for me has always been accounting. So, or be it now, or be it 5 years back in the time, it still continues to be difficult. But let's say something which sort of, was like a really good module which you liked, or some subject which you really liked.
yes. I just had I mean I think we're gonna talk about like this specific process during the program, but I can mention that by now we are doing concentration. So
Okay.
I'm doing the customer experience management concentration. And in my particular case, I joined this concentration because I'm really passionate about sales, but also the concentration focuses a lot in marketing. So, but
Sure.
for me, sales was like, this is my passion. I really need to learn more about this. So, by the beginning of the concentration, we had a course that was sales management.
Okay.
And it was amazing because it was not my knowledge about sales. Like my main knowledge during my career about sales was how to be a good key account manager, like how
Yeah.
to reach your customer, but your customer as a company.
Yeah.
You know, that where you can negotiate deals. But in this course, we learn how to manage a sales force.
Okay.
So it was really interesting in how to see how were the new strategies and how to manage a group of people, like a group of people that is really your face
Sure.
to, to the final customer.
Yeah.
So how you can incentivize the people, how you can make the people to make their best, or how can you also fail into mistakes, so these people is like with a motivation in the lowest and everything can go bad. So how important is that your sales force is really, for example, trained and it's really motivating, and it's really well trained in the knowledge about your product, because everything goes into the sales force. So for me,
Sure.
it was like a new vision about sales. I loved it,
Yeah.
and I opened my mind that I that in the first in my first position I was like, okay, maybe I'm passionate about sales, but I want to do a key account manager job in the future, something like that. But after this course, I realized that I can really love also in how to be like a manager of Salesforce, like a Salesforce in point of sales. That, of
True.
course, during my career, I had like a lot of contact with high management, like CEOs and directors.
Yep.
But you should also learn in how to develop the information to the Salesforce. That, of course, is a totally different audience.
True.
So for me, it was amazing. That was my
Yeah.
favorite.
Glad to hear that. And in terms of the curriculum, while I do understand there should be some element of, let's say, practical element of it, of whatever you're learning in the class, but if you can just take us through, do you have any live consulting projects you guys work on, or how do the group projects they pan out? What's the structure like?
Yeah, group projects we have, and we are having a lot, like since the beginning, since first term. Actually, during the first week of the program, we just have a lot of workshops.
Okay.
First of all, they teach you and they encourage you a lot and to do a lot of networking.
Right.
That's another thing. But second of all, they right away tell you that you're gonna work in groups the whole program. So in the first term, our program is divided in 4 terms and concentration. So in the first term is the most intense one, because we had like a lot of courses, like 7.
Yep.
And in the same time, we have company visits, we have company presentations, we have applications, and a lot of things. Uh, and we have group assignments in the 7 courses. So
Okay.
it's really intense, because in the beginning, everyone wants to have like a really good grade and all the assignments. So everyone is really intense. So I think the group work have developed and have improved a lot for everyone. You can
Yeah.
really see how everyone has improved their group management work and
For
how to
sure.
deal with different opinions,
And
because
especially with the people from different nationalities, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's
yes,
not that easy.
yes. I mean, in Bocconi, in my class, we are 111
Okay.
and we are 38 countries.
Wow.
So you can imagine the cultural shock, the cultural way of thinking shock that you can have. Like, for example, you can just, it's not about it, stereotypes, but you can really notice, like,
Yeah.
for example, that we have like colleagues from Germany that has a totally different way of working than me, that I'm Peruvian, for
Yeah.
example.
True. True.
It's totally different. So since the beginning, you need to be really respectful. You need to accept all the opinions, and you need to work together to have a consensus about the workload. So in the beginning, of course, it's really difficult for everyone, because everyone wants to show off. Everyone wants to work in every assignment.
Yeah.
But then that I think that's a good point from the university, because in the first term they just give you your group. Of course, they made the groups considering backgrounds, considering countries. That's it. but they don't give any, in the beginning, they don't give any guidelines. For example, you need to behave like this. They don't say anything.
Yeah.
But after the first term, after everyone has their own experience in how to deal with group projects,
Yeah.
during the second term, they guide you and they make like group feedbacks.
Okay.
So between each other in your same group, you can give feedback to your classmates.
Sure.
So for me, it was really good because
Yeah.
you can really know how your classmate may feel about some comments that you give, some reactions that you had during the workload. So it's a really good experience that you can have after, and that you can take to improve how to work in groups for the next terms.
I think it's a very good point which you brought out. And that's the beauty about, doing your MBA from, let's say, US or Europe, because most of the MBA programs will focus on group assignments, one, and second,
Mhm.
on regular feedback. And I mean,
Yeah.
it was part of my curriculum as well. And I think these feedbacks sort of transform you, because it's a feedback which is coming in not from, let's say, just one perspective. Because usually when you are in your home country, everyone is looking at things from the same window, right? But when you have different cultures coming in, I think it's a very different kind of feedback which you receive, and you overall, as a personality, as a professional, you sort of grow.
Exactly.
Great. So on that note, what I would want to know more about is, in terms of the career services. How do career services help you guys? I'm pretty sure you guys are almost now on the verge of finishing your course, getting into the job market. So how does the career service pan out for you guys?
Yeah, in Bocconi, we have the Career Development Center. So we have 5 coaches that they have experience in determine in a specific industry. So based on the industry that you are most likely about to have after the MBA, that you put in the beginning when you apply, the university assigned you a coach. So since the beginning, the coach worked with a group of students, preparing the students and how to behave good in an interview.
Sure.
So that's the first step, and then we have one-to-one sessions with our coaches.
Okay.
The first one is scheduled by them, in order to see what are our expectations, what are the main companies, what are our priorities, because for some people the priorities is location, for other people the priorities is industry, and for other people it's like a specific company. So everyone
Sure.
has their different
Yeah.
priorities. So the first session with them, the one-to-one, is to define that. But after that, it's it's a work that you can you should do yourself
Mm-hmm.
to have the following sessions with them. Like normally they are always available for us, but it's our job, our personal job, to schedule the next meeting, to have like personal sessions with them in order to review our CVs, in order to review cover letters, in order to ask for people that is working in some company that we are interested, so we can have like a bigger network, or a closely meeting with them, for example.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, the work is in the hands of Career Development Center, but since the third month, the work is on our hands.
Okay.
So if you are not active in that, you cannot expect as well, because they are 5 and we are more than 100.
Yeah.
So of course you need to work with that by yourself. You need to search for the job. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think career support plays a pretty important role. And like you mentioned, because a lot of us, for us, the way we look at job search is very different. I remember, I mean, in India, it's a very different ball game when we look for jobs.
Yeah.
We don't really focus a lot on networking versus, let's say, Europe or US, where there's a very strong focus on networking, and that's how you sort of, get into the job market. Yeah.
Yes.
Just a quick question around coming back to the admission process. What kind of scholarship does the school offer? Was there any scholarship which you were able to get from the school? If you can just throw some light on that.
Yeah, the school offers a lot of scholarship, like I think more than 5.
Okay.
Some of them are segmented by continent, and other ones are by gender. Like for
Sure.
example, female. Um, so they offer this possibility, but there are few.
Okay.
And in this case, based on some conversations that I had with my friends,
Yep.
it's very important the GMAT score, for example,
Okay.
because the competition is really high. Like you will expect that everyone apply for the scholarship.
Sure.
Everyone apply for a scholarship because it's a really important. Do you know doing an MBA is a really expensive investment? Like
Yeah.
everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So of course, to have a scholarship is a really good help. So everyone applies.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, yeah, they consider the GMAT score, and of course the motivation letter,
Yeah.
no, and of course your background. For example, if
Sure.
you did like a really important project in your past, like for example, if you did a really good volunteer program in your past, that can help as well.
Okay.
And if you did a really good research, like for example, if you are a PhD and you did a research in, I don't know, genetics, something that it's really
Yeah.
really impact the university, that may help a lot.
Sure. Sure. Um, and in terms of, let's say, just your experience till now, let's say in Italy for that matter, what are your plans like after MBA? I understand. Do you speak Italian, or just for my understanding?
A little bit,
A little
a little.
bit, a little
I
bit.
need to
Okay,
improve. Yeah.
for sure. But what's the plan like, and what does the market look like, especially for, let's say, so many international students coming to
Yes.
Italy, coming to Europe? What's the market as per your understanding, as per your experience till now?
Yeah. In my personal case, I mean, if I can shortly explain, like
Yeah,
the program in Bocconi is a year and 3 months.
yeah.
Like we started on September last year, but our graduation is in December.
Okay,
So it's a year and 3 months. So the program classes ended by the end of May. So by the
okay,
end of this month, we're gonna end classes. From June until September, that is summer, there's a possibility that you can do an internship, a full-time job, or a business project. And
okay.
for the following 3 months, that is September until December, you can do another internship, a full-time job, exchange, or another business project. So you have like a lot of options. So everyone choose the best option for them.
Sure.
In my case, as I was saying, I really need to work. Like I love to work. So my main objective was to find or an internship or a full-time job.
Yeah.
So in my personal case, I was focusing a lot on full-time jobs.
Okay.
And I'm really grateful that I'm now in 3 processes. So
Wow.
by now I'm just waiting for the answers, but the best thing will be to have any of them by June.
Okay.
So that's the summary. And for me, in my case, my priority is to stay in Europe.
Okay.
Like coming from Peru, I think, and I don't have, for example, an European passport. So
Yeah.
that's one of the limitations. If for an internship, if the company doesn't sponsor visas, you cannot work there.
Sure.
But in Italy, you can,
Yeah.
because we are having like an student visa for a year. Um, okay, so in my case, my priority is to stay in Europe. So I'm currently searching around Europe. Of course, being a Peruvian, best countries for me will be Italy and Spain. But actually, I'm opening my options because
Sure.
there's a lot of work everywhere. So
True.
talking about the market of Italy, um, language, yes, is a limitation, but there's a lot of opportunities around, especially in international companies.
Okay.
So it's mainly based on the function. For example, for a finance function, you can just work in English. I am applying, for example, for a function that is in inventory planning.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same time, I should have like a little close engaging coordination with also Salesforce in point of sales.
Sure.
So in that case, they ask for Italian.
Okay.
So it's depend of the function where you are applying. But yes, there are the market is really huge. Of course, during the summer, because here during the summer there are a lot of vacations.
Yeah.
There's not much like job offerings open by now, but by September
Yeah.
onwards, there's a lot of
The market
options.
sort of opens up. Yeah.
The market is huge. There's let's no worry about that. Yeah.
Great, great, great. Well, interesting. But thank you so much talking about the Italian job market, because I think that's also one of the concerns which a lot of students have as to what's the market like after MBA. Yeah.
Yes.
But before we wrap up, one last question for you. If there was any tip you would want to give to an MBA aspirant for SDA Bocconi, what would that be?
Yeah. First of all, 100% recommended. Mainly because the program is just a year, especially for persons that like me, that they don't want to spend too much time studying. Actually, the program is a year and 3 months. But as I was saying, you just study for 9 months.
Yeah.
It's just a pregnancy, for example, as we can say. It's just a pregnancy, 9 months of classes, and then you are fully available to work. You can decide if you can do an internship or a full-time job, so you're totally available for the market. So I think it's a really good opportunity because it's fast. So you have the degree with you, and in a really short time you can right away start working again. So it's 100% recommended. It's a really good program in Bocconi because it's actually how can I say, we are just 111. Like normally MBA classes are more than 200, even more. So being 111, you have like a close relationship with the director of the program. Like that, I have like a month ago a one-to-one session with him. So he's really involved with the class. He's really involved with the background and the expectations of each of us. So being a program that is this tiny, I think it's a really good opportunity because you can really build your network and you can really take advantage of the benefits of the university. And then I can talk about the social and the amazing experience that is an MBA.
Yeah.
It's a totally worth it investment. It's like you cannot doubt about that. It's just a year, but a month it feels like 6 months. Like a lot of things happen every day, and you cry with your friends, you laugh a lot, you party, and you get anxious together. But the huge support that you can grow into the program, it's amazing. It's an amazing experience.
True, true. Well, great. Thank you so much, Alexa, for sharing your experience. This was really insightful. I think a lot of good points covered in terms of job market, in terms of the program in itself. And I'm pretty sure all our listeners and our viewers are going to gain a lot. And if there's anything they come up with in terms of any problems or any concerns around it, we'll try and route those queries through me to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's been an honor being able to help prospects for the next years. So yeah, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I'm totally available for any question.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexa, and all the best for the interviews which are
Thank
in
you.
progress, and hope to hear good news soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.